Okay, so this is just going to be another yap session from me today. No fancy editing, no fancy footage, just me yapping about something that Pablo posted on Twitter. I bet most of you have seen this graph before, right? If you don't know, this is the graph that reflects how much a frame has been used in a singular type of mission, particularly deep Archimedia and temporal Archimedia. And as you can see, Hildryn just stands above everyone else on this list with a use rate of near 40% combined, with the second and third barely going past 10%. A statistical graph can reveal a lot of things, especially downright terrible design choices, but not all. I'm not gonna talk about that here because the Tenet envoy shaped elephant is never addressed by DE. Anyways, when you see a graph that looks like this, you know shit has went absolutely wrong. Normally, if you were to assume that loadout is always randomized, the graph typically looks like a shape like this. Yes, obviously people will still gravitate towards the best option for a particular game mode, but it will always be a smooth slope downwards from the beginning to the end. If the idea of EDA and ETA is to make the graph mostly a straight line because the loadout is randomized and you want to treat every weapon and every frame equally, the data should have reflected so, but it seems like it just does not. This is because your iteration of challenging content is simply a catastrophic failure, not because it is hard. Let me be honest. The moment the modifiers are not some of the most bullshit combination ever and the picks are not absolutely terrible, the game mode is a breeze. You can just breeze past them without any sort of difficulty that you think it has. The moment that you get a frame that turns the game mode off, it's over. Hell, I don't even want to mention the ultimate cheese method such as piggyback, by allowing a player to help a person complete EDA/ETA for them, and the guy will help the guy back in exchange. If players somehow choose to drop their ego and consider of utilizing a game mode breaking cheese method just to get the rewards they want, instead of interacting with the challenges you set for them, that speaks volumes. Pablo, I think everyone can tell you that EDA and ETA is a dog shit game mode. Did you genuinely believe that you succeeded like what you choose to claim on your tweets? And now the graph comes out. Tell me, Pablo, does that seem like a success to you? The graph is some of the most lopsided graph that I have ever laid my eyes upon. Have you ever asked yourself a question? How does a frame have near 40% use rate? Even if you take a peek at the use rate of all warframes in 2025, the graph will always look like a downward slope. This only happens when a singular pick has an absurd advantage over any of the other picks on the list. And that is exactly what happened. If you take a close look to every modifiers that exists, or the RNG that will ever happen to you, Hildryn is the least affected. Only one singular modifier, aka exposure curse, can really affect her, where shields are removed, which, turns her completely useless. She doesn't require any weapon as she has an exalted, which means that she can circumvent the RNG of weapon loadouts, and not like her exalted is any bad at all, as it can handle enemies well enough. Even when it comes to defending, her CC capability is not bad either, especially when you are modding for high range. Her absolutely insane base shield stacks allows her to withstand powerless, a modifier where you need 50 kills before having access to warframe and operator powers. And after she has access to her abilities, she is perfectly survivable as she is not at a level range where her shields gets deleted in less than a second. She is the only frame of all 65 warframes that can bypass almost every terribly designed modifier that is thrown towards her. And I wonder why everyone gravitate towards her instead of anything else. Wow, shocking. Surely we are going to think that this is not Hildryn's fault of being so good at a mission that everyone hates, but had to do it for the rewards. and choose to not nerf her by directly adjusting her kit, making her weaker outside of one mission that somehow had the stars align and allows her to take over, and address the terrible design of EDA and ETA and make them better for anyone to play, with a challenge that is difficult but fair, and limitations that still gives the player a way to circumvent around. Surely we are going to do that, right? Like, consider how terrible this balancing team has been at their job. I do not have hope. I wish to be wrong, but I know I'm just going to be right, and Hildryn will be nerfed in a completely unjust way, which will affect her viability and still address none of the problems that EDA and ETA has. Hildryn goes down, another one will just take over. Let it be Dante or anyone else who can still somewhat play around the modifiers. Nothing will ever change, but only Hildryn will suffer because she is the quote-unquote outlier. I think it is finally time we finally do something about EDA and ETA. Players have been complaining about its unfair and BS modifiers for years. Hell, you literally had to break your own rule to make certain gears work with a gearless modifier, because you never think further when you add these modifiers in. Does that sound like a good game design to you? Yes, I can grind through them, but it is such a sluggish process, you hardly enjoy the process at all. I would play Natural Cell instead, because at least I have fun speedrunning to the door as fast as I could. The RNG nature of EDA and ETA must be resolved, and lots of modifiers that straight up takes away mechanics or make a certain mechanic, loadout, or setup pointless to use should be removed. Mechanics should be made use of and be prioritized, not removing them to make the game look challenging, because that is the clearest sign that you did not know a single thing about your own game. Challenging content should incentivize the player to actually interact with the game, because your community is known to avoid interacting with the game as much as possible. And you are merely continuing the trend with EDA and ETA. And if you think you are actually doing a good job, you are just out of touch, because I'm terribly sorry to say that you are doing a terrible job at that. Yes, you are free to set limitations, but the limitations should ensure player choices still matter a ton, because that's personal expression. Players are bound to like X more than Y in a certain category, and by forcing something that they don't like down their throat is nowhere near to be a good choice, to be honest. Anyways, let me know what you think about this situation in the comments below. I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.